Welcome to the Sales and Marketing Playbook Unleashed, the premier podcast for innovative growth strategies, hosted by two seasoned experts. Meet Evan Polin, the president of Polin Performance Group, a master in sales coaching with over 2 decades of experience. Evan is not just a consultant, he's a force in sales, focusing on mindset, planning, and skill development. He's also the co-author of Selling Professional Services the Sandler Way. Joining him is Craig Andrews, partner and CEO of Beholder Agency, an expert in growth marketing. With 20 years under his belt, Craig blends marketing creativity with strategy to propel businesses forward, making Beholder Agency a leader in effective marketing solutions. Together, Evan and Craig are here to share their wisdom on winning strategies, best practices, and transformative insights that will fuel your growth. Get ready to revolutionize your sales and marketing approach right here on the Sales and Marketing Playbook Unleashed.
And welcome to the Sales and Marketing Playbook. I'm Craig Andrews, and this is my partner in crime, Evan Polin. We are excited today. Why am I excited, Evan?
You're excited because we have a great guest joining us today for our podcast.
Yes. And a lot of times when we come to you guys as our audience, we like to make sure that we bring together people who's going to tie sales and marketing together. And ultimately, what we have a guy here who I'm not even going to be shy, Evan. I'm going to say a genius when it comes to software. An absolute genius. He starts blowing my mind in things in ways that I'm going, whoa, slow down. I'm not that smart yet. So give me a second to catch up. That's how good he is. Go ahead.
So, and I think the other thing that people are really going to resonate with is a little bit in terms of Mac's story and some of his background and how he got to where he was, and some of the obstacles that he's overcome, some of the things that fears that he had that kept him that he's been able to overcome. And I think a lot of our audience is really going to resonate with that as they look at what they need to do to be successful moving forward on their sales and marketing journey.
So as a background, Steve P McKeon, also known as Mac, we call him Mac, is the founder and CEO of MacGyver. We're going to touch that, MacGyverTech and MacnNerd, boosting over 30 years experience in the tech industry. His career has given him a passion of deconstructing and creating, which naturally led him to the fields of software development, reverse engineering, which is big, and ethical hacking. With a firm committed to ethics, Mac is focused on utilizing blockchain technology to promote ethical practices and contribute positively to the world. He invites us to join him on his mission of forging an inclusive and equitable technological future. That's a mouthful. That is a mouthful. But let me tell you something. He is an important guy when it comes to sales and marketing, especially when it comes to public speaking. We're going to talk a little bit about that, especially when it comes to technology. So let me introduce our star of the hour, Mac.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, Mac.
How you doing?
You don't mind if we call you Mac, right?
No, absolutely. And honestly, thank you for that very humbling intro. I really appreciate it.
So before we really get going here, how does a guy with Pink Floyd connections, who's a self-proclaimed nerd and loves to face his weaknesses and embrace challenges, put all that together into software and public speaking?
Oh, wow. Yeah. I know I'm collaborating with a lot of different things and technologies, and most people usually don't do that. I'm a little unique, and the way my brain works, it doesn't work like others. So I kind of think different, I guess you would say. And I always look for what everybody else isn't doing. I'm always, a big fan is like the bell curve. If you remember in probability statistics, you have that little bell that kind of goes up. Everybody goes towards the middle. I go to the edges first, and then I work back if I need to, because that's already tested and tried. But if you're going to look for multipliers or changes or things that others haven't seen, you got to kind of go to the outskirts. You can't just kind of go to the middle ground. You can always come back. So it just it changes your perspective a lot of times when you do that too. And it opens up other ideas and ways of thinking. And I've always been doing that anyway. So I like to come up with creative solutions to problems, no matter what it is, if it's business, technology, my own personal life, or I've had to MacGyverize my tractor with duct tape and chainsaw piece and this and that. I do those types of things. So I'm just a natural tinkerer, like the guy MacGyver. Like if you get stuck in the elevator, I'm probably the guy to get you out. So I don't know. The light, something turns on when those kind of moments show up in my life, and I kind of enjoy thinking on my feet, solving problems, and doing that. So My back.
So Mac, in a zombie apocalypse, you're the guy that we want with us.
Well, absolutely. Also, I live in a castle that has 18-inch stone walls and slits. This is built back in 1800, so there's like slits for rifles in the basement.
Wow.
So it's actually a fortress. So if you want to come on to my fortress, and we'll protect everybody. You can bring the family and the dog.
Well, so what's interesting about this is, right? So Evan and I are constantly, when we're talking sales and marketing, we're constantly in position about think outside the box. Don't do what everybody else is doing.
Okay, so I guess I'm on something.
You're absolutely onto something. So Evan, in terms of a salesperson who has to think outside the box, what's your viewpoint on that?
I agree. One of the things I tell my clients all the time, if all of your competitors are doing it, stop doing it immediately. We don't want to be just like everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
So if everyone's sending out the email once a week, doing this, doing that, you don't want to look, sound, feel like everyone else. So how do we stand out? How do we stand apart in everything from an elevator pitch to talking about what you're doing? Again, the tweak from the sales perspective that I have people make is don't talk about yourself. People really don't care about you. Yes, we're most comfortable saying these are all the things I've done. Talk about your clients. What kinds of problems do you solve for them?
Yeah.
What kinds of challenges do they have that you might be able to help them with? They care a heck of a lot more about that than they do about me touting my own accolades, tooting my own horn, talking about how great I am, doing all of the same stuff everybody else is. Now, again, it's comfortable to do that because I can prep for knowing all of my collateral and knowing all the things that we do. And I run the risk sometimes if I ask questions of maybe not being 100% prepared of what questions I might get. But that's going to resonate a lot more with our audience. So again, if everybody else is doing something, I want to see how I can tweak that a little bit, turn that on its head a little bit. And Mac, again, it sounds like you've got a lot of the same perspective of if everybody else is doing it, why do the same thing everybody else is doing? How do we look to the margins? How do we look at other things?
Yeah, absolutely.
And a lot of times from a marketing perspective, our job is to be different than the competition. So we're out here and we're putting out information to say, yes, I know you've seen that person before, but this is what we do different and why you should consider us. So that's how the three of us kind of tie together in that perspective, in which Mac, you just self-proclaimed, you look at the edges and then said, hey, how can I create something different? And we're going to touch upon your software piece, but first I want to get to your public speaking.
Sure, okay. Absolutely. Because I think I wear that with a badge of honor, honestly, right now, because I want to kind of back things up to Mac as a kid. Mm-hmm. I had a very tough childhood. My dad was a manic depressive and bipolar, and he took his own life. And that was really horrific to even go through that piece. But also, I found out, my dad was exposed to Agent Orange a couple of times while he was in Vietnam. That's a neurotoxin, and it actually can be passed down to your siblings. And myself and my brothers probably have exposure to that as well. That being said, the effects of that, sometimes it could cause neurological damage. So for me, that is like ADHD, and I'm a little on the autistic scale. So I kind of was born with a disability in emotional intelligence, I would say. I'm really smart at everything else, math, science, but when it came to communication and just like we're doing here, this was really difficult for me. The reason being is, there's a condition that comes with ADHD called RDS. And RDS stands for rejection dysphoria syndrome. So most normal people, if I tell you something bad, you'll be like, yeah, you brush it off. But me, I feel physical pain when I feel or see or perceive rejection. Wow. That can be debilitating for anybody. I would just blank and couldn't even public speak. The reason I'm saying this is because I want to let you know where I started. And I basically started at the bottom, probably actually under what everybody else would start at in this area. And I had to basically lift myself up to become just as good as everybody else. And now I've lifted myself to become better. And it took a lot of practice, a lot of determination, and a lot of grit. And I literally would be public speaking with a cue card saying, hi, I'm Steve P McKeon. I do software. Will you buy from me? And it was really awkward, really crappy. And I didn't know what I was doing. So I joined a really cool organization called BNI, which is a business networking international group helping young business owners kind of find their way, be around other business owners that are kind of doing their thing. And big part of that is public speaking. So every Friday morning at 7 a.m., I had to get in front of 70 business owners and tell them what I did. I did that for a few years, and I kind of stunk at it for a while. But I just kept doing it and kept doing it. And I still remember this day, still sitting in that chair, 2 chairs from the left. Why do I even care? I just went up, said it from my heart and authentic, and I never turned back from that. Now I just go up, even here. I do better with that Q&A thing. I just be authentic, and the things that I know, and the things I don't know, I'm very honest about them. That's where I think a lot of people get themselves in trouble. They don't want to look like they don't know something. And, that's where I think people fall short. The best thing you could do in public speaking is be yourself.
Well, let me jump in here real quick, Steve. So I know, Evan, that you do a lot of public speaking as well in your sales seminars.
I do. Yes, I do now. Yes.
So, Evan, from your perspective, from a public speaking and someone who has gone through what Steve has gone through, what would be your advice to the audience who might have a phobia to speaking publicly?
So I two things. One, I think Mac just illustrated a really important lesson, and I want to make sure that that this point is not lost. Mac didn't say, I decided one day that I wanted to be good at public speaking. I went up there and I was great overnight. He talked about being in BNI meetings for several years, practicing for several years, then having something click and saying, okay, well, now I just don't need to care anymore. And now I need to go and not only practicing the skills, but having the mindset and changing the mindset from one way to another. So I don't want that to be lost for some of you who are out there who don't like going to networking events, don't like public speaking, don't get up on stage. It's not going to be just 1 or 2 times, and then you're going to be cured and it's going to be easy. Yep. It's going to take lots of practice. It's going to be a skill that you need to build up over time. But with repetition, with the right mindset, you can develop the skills. So again, Mac, I think I agree with you in hearing your background. You didn't start as equal from everyone else. You started with a major disadvantage and major obstacles to overcome. And I think you're a great illustration of what can happen when somebody really puts their mind to it, decides they want to do it. So I just don't want that to be lost on folks. For me, public speaking is extremely important. And Craig, you and I have talked about this before, whether you're the business owner or you're a sales rep for another company or an account executive, you are the face of your company. When you're talking to anybody, whether it's a customer on the phone, a prospect at a trade show or at a networking event. So it's a skill that you really need to build up. It's a skill that you really need to develop. Steve mentioned BNI. BNI is a great organization. LITIP is an organization much like BNI where business owners and salespeople get together on a weekly basis. For several years, I ran a group through Toastmasters. Toastmasters is a nonprofit organization. Go look at Toastmasters.org, and there's probably 24 chapters within 20 minutes of where anybody listening to this podcast may live. Great in terms of giving you the skills, giving you things to concentrate on so that you can get better and determine it. But if you can't articulate, if you can't communicate, it's going to be very difficult for you to get across to other clients why they should care about what you do, what your value prop is. And quite frankly, people, especially these days, need to practice not only that written communication, not only the verbal communication, but the written communication as well. Yep. You could have the best product or service in the world. If you can't articulate to other people what that is and why they should care, you're going to have a really tough time. So, Craig, from a marketing perspective, what do you see and what have you seen in terms of working with different clients, in terms of people who are willing to get out there and able to do it versus people who are just so uncomfortable? And that there's that joke out there about giving a eulogy, and that 2/3 of people would rather be in the box than up there delivering the eulogy. So so talk a little bit about how it's important from a marketing perspective.
Yeah, thank you. So from a marketing perspective, ultimately a lot of the communication that Mac and you guys and you, Evan, are talking about is really coming from a comfortable position of being able to express yourself and how you're different. Right now, in everything that we do, whether it be social media, whether it be websites, whether it be software, whether it be anything, we have to be able to communicate what's the benefit for me. That's your sales thing, right, Evan?
Yep.
What's in it for me? What's
in it for me?
What's in it for me? So if communication is not happening in a clear, concise way, what's the easiest thing to do? go to the next person who is clearer. So Mac really touched upon a great point here about, actually, we talked about this in the pre-post podcast meeting. Mac says, and I quote, "If I can do it, none of you guys, or all of you guys can do it." And he was very clear about that. And he just illustrated kind of the struggles he had getting to this point. So the ability, and I'm an introvert too, believe it or not, even though I'm sitting on here talking on a podcast, the ability to get out and explain yourself and just have a communication. Most of the decisions are made by who they like, right? Sales guy, more business is done with who they like versus what they actually know. And that's an important part when it comes to the marketing perspective, is to be able to market yourself, brand yourself. We've talked about that in other episodes.
Yeah, can I jump in here? I just want to add a little thing, because I think it's really important to kind of really put the exclamation point on this. You know, my mentor, when I was still kind of, you know, a young engineer starting to manage people, started to, you know, kind of train me. And one day he told me, like, listen, you can be the smartest person in the room. It doesn't matter if you can't communicate that effectively. So, you know, I don't want to be the smartest person in the room. On purpose. I mean, even people say I might be. I'm actually seeking out the smartest person in the room. Yeah. And I'm trying to communicate that and find those people. And public speaking, honestly, is my most valuable skill set. I can do a lot of really cool stuff on the nerdy side, but that doesn't come to comparison of what the value is. Public speaking can change your life. Like, it will give you a voice. And the biggest thing is you need to have comfort. And I think, Craig, you push it on. People can perceive fear. All animals can. And if you're coming across and you're fearful of talking, you're really kind of timid, even though you don't say you're saying that, that comes across in your body language. Absolutely. You have to be comfortable with yourself. And that was that, when that clicked for me, I was finally comfortable with myself, no matter what other people thought. And I think that's really important to resonate, because if you can't be comfortable with yourself, no matter what you say is not going to come across genuine. And
it absolutely comes off, as you said, it comes off physically. It comes off in your pitch. It comes off in your deliverable and everything. More and I'm going to take us back to high school, because we just did a series here about high school. We've all been in the scenario where all these movies that we talk about, the jock, we talk about the nerd, we talk about the pretty girl, we talk about all that stuff. There's movies upon movies based on that. And that's really the concept that all this stuff comes from. So if you can really demonstrate a level of confidence, if you can really demonstrate a level of comprehension in your own comfort, I agree with you guys. You go miles and miles and miles with your business, without a doubt. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just want to add one more thing. And one thing I learned, because I'm good at talking, I'm very fast at that, but sometimes I need to slow down. And one of the things I think was really helpful for me is the 2-to-1 ratio. You have 2 ears to 1 mouth. You should be listening more and be more interested than interesting.
There you go. That's Evan. You got to use that.
You want to be interested in what others are doing, so you can resonate and build that emotional connection. I have it written on my whiteboard here, because as somebody like myself, emotional connections is a difficult thing for me. So I really work on this, and I basically try to resonate with whoever I'm talking with, and even like syncing my breathing and my heart rate to them. When you sync with a person emotionally, you will naturally do that. So if you kind of do some of those tricks, you can kind of force you to be in that synchronization mode subconsciously.
Yeah, and Mac, you're touching on a number of the things that I talk about in my.
Okay, this is not my lane. It's from observation.
Yeah, building reports, really important, and if you're in sync with the other person, they're going to be more likely to kind of resonate with your message. And again, to what you said, if I'm talking, I can't find out what somebody else's problems are. And I can't determine whether or not I can be a good resource for someone else if I'm the one doing all the talking. So listening, having some of that emotional intelligence, asking really good questions is going to help to determine whether or not I can be a good resource for the other person, and whether or not I can help them with whatever their problems might be. So I think that's a great point.
I love the fact that Mac gave us a little nugget for the podcast. The 2-to-1 ratio, 2 ears.
It is. We got 2 of them. I mean, this kind of makes sense.
So, and if we want to take that one step further, not only do we have 2 ears, But depending on who you are, you also have 2 to 4 eyes. Depending on whether or not you've got glasses, contact lenses. I've got 4 eyes, so.
Is that a glasses joke? Are you busting on my glasses right now?
Like, I'm not wearing mine. I only need mine for distance, so I don't need this.
If not for my contact lenses, you guys who the screen's about 18 inches from my face would be fuzzy if not for the contact lenses I had in right now.
I gotcha.
Awesome. Let's branch a little bit into your software. So Evan and I speak a lot about the importance of having technology that is going to help the sales and marketing process work together better, be more efficient. And I know that you're head and heels over with software. Sure. Tell me about some automation stuff that you've come across from a sales and marketing perspective, or software you've created to help the automation process.
This is a great point, because really, thinking about that whole communication piece, granted, your web pages aren't really talking to you. If they were, you probably want to make it go away, but they're still communicating a message there and how to get people interested in stuff. So it's really important. And in my world, there's a thing called above the fold. So what that means is on any web page, and I see Craig, he knows what I mean here. When you come to any web page on your phone or on your computer, above the fold is what you see when you first come to that website. That is critical, because anything in there should have a call to action for what you want to convey your message and what you want to do with them. If you don't, people are rarely short attention spans. 2 seconds, they're gone. So, you have 2 seconds to communicate something. So it's really effective to make sure that you have that right, not only but the words, the colors, the tone, and what it does. To give you an example, like what we've done as problem solvers in this area, we work with lots of companies, and it could be anybody from just doing, selling services, from a cleaning company up to a company that builds, products, and sells companies like Anheuser Beer, or sells sheds and buildings. So one of our really cool projects we did was for a company called Rhino Buildings. Rhino Buildings is a fabricator. So if you want to get a shed, or if you want to get like a school, they can build that for you. And they have a really cool thing to do it. The problem is his competitors had like this really clunky kind of thing to help kind of quote out what you can build your own model. So we took that over, and we basically made his quote intake engine as a 3D model builder that people can use to build the buildings they want. It saves that, and it sends it to the sales team. So when they get the link, they open up exactly what that person built, tweak it a little bit, and they can use the common interface of a 3D model in a web page to consolidate, make sure they're on the same page of what they want to build, and making sure the windows in the right placements. You can go down to the millimeter on moving the windows left, right, up and down, colors and all that. It's phenomenal. I mean, if you guys share, if you could ever see it, you can go to Rhino Buildings. You can see the little builder there if you're interested in it. But that was a creative solution to create a sales intake funnel. That tool probably generates 100 quotes a day for that company. Wow. There's probably 30 or 40 salespeople that are using that, coming up, picking it up. And it's not just doing things like for the builder, it's actually intuitive, where, like, say, if that salesperson took on that person initially for a job and they asked for another job, we automatically match them again. And we've done smart things, because you don't just want to do a round robin and find somebody, another salesperson at the same company that, hey, you got another building, now you got to build another relationship. That usually is awkward, and you want to have that person's already had a good relationship with that customer, take that relationship over again and move them along their journey. That is the right way to do it. And we kind of built all those things in custom for that company, how they wanted to run and build, and give them a competitive advantage over his competitors.
Wow. So, Evan, did that spark you as a sales guy? I mean,
well, that's a sales thing. It's a sales tool we created. And it's really neat, because it's a 3D model or build. It's like playing a video game in a web page. So it's kind of cool, but its purpose is to generate leads and generate opportunities. And this is what it does in a very visual way.
And I would imagine it engages those prospects immediately.
Immediately. They basically, as soon as that thing gets submitted, the sales guys are calling them within a few minutes. And they're like, okay, I got your drawings here. I see what you want to do. And then they can spin the building around the side. I can see your back. You might have a little bit of issue here. Like, these are technical salespeople. They understand how buildings are and what you want to get out of it. Like, if you just build a shed and you put like 100-foot roof all the way out there, and you have only 2 posts holding it up, it might work in a model, but in real life, gravity might take hold. So, like, those are types of things, like, you're allowed to build all these different things and be creative, but understanding how they actually know what the materials are and how that works is really important. And they help them through that journey. But we just created a tool as a technology company for them to be more effective there.
And there's probably a lot of people with home contracting businesses and contracting businesses right now going, why can't my company do that? And when are we going to get a hold of Mac? Because right now they're just filling out boring, filling out 3-4 lines worth of stuff. And if somebody can play with this stuff and make it real.
Yeah, we've even I've even done for like cleaning companies back in the BNI day. We built a quote generation tool, which we just took all the numbers and how they do the stuff from their paper, and then we created a really cool little widget. Like you can slide things around, like how many windows or doors, what is your pitch on your roof. I know it's kind of similar to the other company, but they're actually in a different lane. They're doing cleaning services for houses and dry soft wash they call it, where they spray materials or chemicals on your building, and instead of scrubbing or power washing it, this makes
I would guess with the younger generation of kids who are used to gaming and video games and those kinds of things, if you can give them more of that experience when somebody's interfacing with your company, whether it's on your website or in your showroom, whatever you're doing, I would imagine that, again, Craig said it a couple of minutes ago, people like to do business with people that they like. People, if they're giving me something that I like and this is really cool stuff, they're going to be more likely to want to work with you versus just, filling out numbers on a spreadsheet.
100%. And you hit a point here. People do business with people they know, they like, and they trust.
Yes.
All right, that's it. If you get those three, that's where you win. And you just want to kind of focus on that. It's the relationship is really important.
The three of us should really look at joining a group where they really focus on knowing, liking, and trusting.
Yeah, I know. There's always something out there like that,
Tracy, this is a plug for you and Provisors.
There you go. There you go. All of us are Provisor members.
Yes, that's it. I've been about 6 months in. I got to say, I've been doing tons of networking all over the country in different groups. Provisors is it. If you're really serious about your business and serious about building long-lasting relationships, this is it.
Frank, we need to look into that Provisor sponsorship and getting,
I think we need
might know people.
For Tracy to kind of start putting the Provisors logo here.
Brought to you by.
You were going to jump in and say something.
Yeah. So let's talk about your content, right? So how do you take something very technical, and this is again industries that we all touch. How do you take something as technical as you're talking about here and simplify it for a salesperson, a marketing person, and obviously a developer? How do you simplify that in your world?
It's not easy. The thing is, I do this a lot where I have to take, very technical things and boil it down to somebody to make a decision on. Mm-hmm. And it's not all acronyms and things they want to hear. It's like, what is the value proposition? What am I able to use this widget or technology to accomplish? What can I do with it? And how can it maybe close the gaps or make things more efficient? So when a lot of times, sometimes I'll start working with a company where they're dealing with pain. We're a little unique because we're builders. We're also audit things. We can help you remediate or fix things that have been hacked. Me personally, as I'm an ethical hacker. So a lot of times I come into a company that's been having pain. Maybe their database was attacked by the Chinese army and taking over, and the IT department can get it to somewhere. But there's a lot of software stuff that IT guys don't know. I usually come into those situations. I help them when they're in pain, and then all the skeletons come out of the closet once I earn their trust. And they're like, hey, I want to tie this together. And what I'm just looking for is efficiency gains. Less time and less clicks, you would have to do something. Like if somebody's trying to generate a report and they're doing the same repeatable process and they're spending an hour or two, if we can reduce that down to an automated task or script, that's what should be done, because that multiplier of 2 hours will add up every week. And by the end of the year, you'd be really astonished at how much money and resources you have spent, even though you don't think it's that big a deal.
Yep.
So, really building into those types of things. And I'll maybe share a little bit of a journey recently, personally, because I'm working on a product that we're currently working with in the AI space. And, I have probably close to 4,000 people in my CRM, which is quite a few. And what I wanted to do is I used AI to help me go through my 4,000 things. Because if I had to go through and say, hey, I want to find all these IT companies we know, it would take a little while. I might get my list there. So I was able to use AI to help speed that process up, the data, enrichment, pull my data out of what I wanted out of there. Once I did that, I used another AI bot. Since I'm a developer, I can kind of do these things. And I allowed myself to take that Excel spreadsheet that had all the contacts in it with the first name, email, and stuff. And this kind of made a thing. I made little text files, my template. I said, AI, take this template, take this Excel file, and then make me the intros personalized for each person. And I created a text file for each one. So that whole process from the beginning of getting the data to end was probably 15 minutes. Normally that would have taken many, many hours manually. And I was able to really speed my processing up and getting something that would take longer shorter. So that's really what you want to use these technologies for, because honestly, we are in a golden age of technology and commoditized intelligence with AI.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And if you multiply that by 3, 5, 100 users, all of a sudden that adds up quickly in terms
Per day.
Per day.
Yeah. I mean, that's a 365 multiplier. So that's where I think always a lot of business owners get caught up in that and don't really care. Like even me, we just went through an auditing thing through our company. There's a lot of little things and services we no longer using and stuff, and we just were refining our things to be more efficient and removing things that were distractions and or costs, that weren't helping. So, but that's an ongoing thing. You should always kind of keep going and sort sweeping and cleaning up your stuff kind of thing. I forget the acronym. My wife works for Boeing, and they have this Asian kind of acronym that basically talks about sort sweeping and kind of keep iterating that through to keep making your processes better and better and refining them.
Yeah. So go ahead, Evan. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Craig. And then I was just going to make sure that Mac's got an opportunity to share with people how they can get a hold of him.
That's exactly where I was going. Go ahead.
Okay. So Mac, if you just went, because I think that what you're talking about is important for a lot of folks out there in our listening audience. Can you just share with people how they can get a hold of you if they see that they're running into these things? They want to see how they can create efficiencies or be more interactive. So how can folks get a hold of you?
Yeah, first of all, the easiest way is our website, which is MacGyverTech.com. You go there, all of our social media links and everything are at the bottom. I also have a really good social media following on different platforms. LinkedIn, you can find me pretty easily. Also on Twitter, but my Twitter handle is MacGyver Media. When I first started my company, MacGyver Media was my company name. I didn't know when I made it a name media, it was really a marketing company. And I went through a branding journey about 3-4 years in, and we rebranded to MacGyverTech. But I still have the handle. I have quite a few followers. I talk about everything from technology to helping people. So I would love to, chat with you if you see out there. And, that's the easiest way to get a hold of me.
Awesome. So my last question to you, Mac, and this is off the top of my head. Give us 3 things that people in the sales and marketing and the development space need to do right away.
One is embrace AI. AI is a force multiplier, and make sure you're at least using it for simple things like using ChatGPT and OpenAI to help you maybe craft up that email that you want that's going to have a hook into it, that's going to pull that emotional string with somebody. Like use it to its advantages. It's got all the knowledge of humanity packed inside, and it's an intelligent database you can talk to. So use it for that. If you're not AI enabled, you're going to be disabled, because this wave is moving really, really fast than any other technology we've ever seen, and it's transforming the entire workforce. So make sure you're involved in using that and speeding your things up along the way. There's a lot of tools, and this is a really fast-paced space. So if you have any questions, I can always tell you how to do that and where you need to go in AI space. But just embrace it. Don't be afraid of it. It's something that's only going to help us move forward, but it is extremely transformative.
Awesome. So, 2, everyone who's heard Mac and heard Evan and I talk, please, by all means, subscribe, leave a review. We're on every major platform, whether Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podcast Advocate, Amazon Music, and many, many more. You can see us on our podcast page, which is smplaybook.com, smplaybook.unleashed.com. And we're going to let Mac go right now, because I know you're busy and got a lot of things to do. Everybody say thank you, Mac.
Thank you very much, everybody. It's a pleasure being here. You guys are wonderful.
Awesome. I'm Craig Andrews. That's Big Mac. I'm going to call you Big Mac from now on.
I love
Evan Polin. And we thank you guys for listening to our podcast. Until next time. Bye-bye now.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on this exhilarating journey through the world of sales and marketing. Remember, the playbook is in your hands, and the possibilities are limitless. Keep exploring, experimenting, and innovating, and watch as your business reaches unprecedented levels of success. Don't forget to subscribe to the Sales and Marketing Playbook Unleashed on all major podcast platforms, and follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn for even more exclusive content. Until next time, keep hustling and keep winning.